DOJ staffers are in a full-blown freak out over the Trump victory, and now it's even worse because their new boss is going to be Matt Gaetz. They're sitting around. They cannot compute that Matt Gaetz may be in charge. And so we'll go through this. Lots of reaction in this article and more. But all of the right people are furious about this Matt Gaetz possibility. And one of them is Bolton, the mustache walrus, says exactly what you want to hear from him to know Matt Gaetz is the pick of the century. Here's his take.
President-elect Trump intends to nominate Matt Gaetz to run the Department of Justice. What was your immediate reaction when you heard that?
It must be the worst nomination for a cabinet position in American history. I think this is something that falls well outside the scope of deference that should be given to a president in nominating members of his senior team. Gaetz is not only totally incompetent for this job, he doesn't have the character. He is a person of moral turpitude. And notwithstanding how difficult it may be politically, this is a nomination the Republican Party should oppose.
President-elect Trump.
Insult. Moral turpitude? Okay. So he is very upset about it. He also posted this over on X. He says, Gaetz must be the worst nomination for a cabinet position in American history. And basically said the same thing he said last night. He just posted the same thing he just said this morning. So he's upset about it. But the DOJ folks are freaked out. They were already freaked out when Trump was coming in. We know Jack Smith is resigning or will be wrapping up his report and then calling it quits. We know that Christopher Wray is preparing to pack up. Ratcliffe's going to be in charge of the CIA. It's going to be amazing. But here's what's happening at the DOJ. They say Trump's decision to nominate Gaetz has DOJ veterans petrified, and warning of a crisis in the department marked by chaos and revenge. What are you talking about? The whole policy position of the DOJ has been built around revenge. The J6ers, Bannon, Navarro, Trump, Catholics, everybody. The polarizing Republican lawmaker, Matt Gaetz, is already generating resistance on Capitol Hill, suggesting he may not get the votes to win the job. But even if the nomination is doomed, it sends an unmistakable signal about what Trump is expecting this time around. And I don't know that we go that far, that Gaetz is already not confirmed, hasn't even started yet. He wants a MAGA zealot in the post. Yeah, okay. As though what, Merrick Garland's a neutral arbiter of justice? Give me a break. He got a fair congressional subpoena from a co-equal branch of government, and he snubbed the nose right at him. Our current AG. Gaetz fits the profile. He says he's never worked as a prosecutor, which is a pro, and his primary interaction with the DOJ has been a suspect under their rigged prosecutions. But he has been a bellicose provocateur on behalf of Trump, and now he's been tapped to implement Trump and his new policies. Look at this off-stated campaign to exact retribution. It's called justice, punks. It's not retribution. Did you break the law? Okay, no one's above the law. You kept lecturing us about that for ages. Now the question is, did you abuse your office? Are you engaged in malicious prosecution? Violating your oath? There's no conceivable justification for nominating somebody like this, says Ty Cobb, who is an anti-Trump lawyer who used to work with Trump, and he's always on MSNBC. He's the guy. Yeah, he is. Many rank and file Justice Department staffers who are already dreading what Trump might do were flabbergasted by the Gaetz announcement. This is completely wild. It's so out of bounds. It's just shocking, said one DOJ career lawyer, probably Molly, who was granted anonymity out of concerns about retaliation. What happened? Did you break the law? Did you prosecute him unethically? I don't know. He's not a vindictive person. He's just going to come after the people who broke the law because that's what he's been elected to do. He is running the Department of Justice. If there are people who are not complying with the law inside the justice system, there needs to be something done. He's there for one purpose, retribution, as though these people don't get up and drool from their mouths, salivating over the prospect of prosecuting the J6ers. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a grand vision about the future of the department, she says. I can't imagine how this isn't going to scare people even more. Good. The Justice Department is changing. Shortly after Trump's announcement, Gaetz abruptly resigned from his House seat. In his 4 terms there, Gaetz left a trail of bad blood and scandals, they say. He's viewed on Capitol Hill as a pro-Trump brawler, which is good, who has infuriated his own GOP colleagues, including Kev McCarthy. And I think I saw Kev is out there saying that he will not be confirmed. He's not going to get the votes. He strategized with Trump in the weeks leading up to J6. He's being investigated for stuff with a minor, though he was never charged, and he fiercely denied all that, but they like to continue to bring that up repeatedly. Generally, nominating traffickers isn't a good idea, said somebody. Okay, has he been charged? I know there's an ethics report that was supposed to be coming out, I think, this week. And so there's some contemplation that Gaetz' resignation was timed very nicely with that, so that the committee that is going to be releasing this report loses jurisdiction over the report. Now, that being said, doesn't mean that report's not coming out. We know that these things leak very conveniently all the time. Gaetz is also an unorthodox choice on policy. He's advocated for decriminalizing marijuana, called on Trump and others to pardon Snowden, pushed for restrictions on domestic wiretapping, says that the FBI says we need to stop terrorists. Okay, great. All those are awesome. Great job. Sounds great. What's unorthodox about that? I think large portions of the country are okay with all of it. Edward Snowden was a whistleblower who rooted out our own government's corruption. Thank you for doing that, Edward. We appreciate it. You want to still put people in prison and charge them with felonies for marijuana? Give me a break. Even the states are flipping on that. Federal domestic wiretapping? No one wants the FBI hacking into our stuff. Give me a break. Every one of those is maybe unorthodox for the deep state bureaucracy that is the one-party system that masquerades as two, but the majority of Americans are okay with all of those changes. Matt Gaetz is great for that. In his announcement, Trump hailed Gaetz as deeply gifted and tenacious, but there were early doubts. The pick came as a surprise. In the weeks leading up to the election and the days since, Gaetz had not been seen as a contender for this. Someone said, I thought the worst we could get was Paxton, who also would have been a good pick, the career DOJ attorney said. In rejecting prominent conservatives with more typical pedigrees, he's not doing the same thing like last time. We don't want Jeff Sessions. We don't want Bill Barr, Rod Rosenstein. DOJ lifers, the people who have been in bed with the institution for ages. That was our criticism of Bill Barr. Bill Barr was not a Republican or a Democrat. He was an institution. That's it. His loyalty was to the DOJ, as is many of these people's loyalties. Same with Christopher Wray to the FBI. They're all institutionalists, and they'll protect what they believe is the institution, which means the government. They protect the government against the people. And we're tired of them being in charge. If there were any people left who were holding on to the idea that this is going to basically be like Trump's term, where there was a total commandeering of the administration by the DOJ and by stupid investigations, they said they've now been disabused of that notion. Former prosecutor Jonathan Kravis said, it's not the same as the last time. That was the whole point. Trump's not doing it again. Because even if it's not Matt Gaetz, even if he doesn't get confirmed, it's going to be someone else like him. Okay. And that's what we talked about last night. And we said, hey, might be a red herring, the shiny object. Oh, look over here. Look over here. It's Matt Gaetz, Matt Gaetz. Meanwhile, you get Tulsi Gabbard, you get RFK Jr., Health and Human Services. Everybody's running in over here while you're shining Matt Gaetz over. One former Trump official granted anonymity to speak candidly called the Gaetz nomination effing appalling. It's effing appalling. Why? Because he wanted it to be him? The attorney general should not be a provocateur. Okay, so this is what we were also talking about yesterday. Overt versus covert. Matt Gaetz, you know who he is. We all know who he is. We all know what his perspective is. Merrick Garland is exactly the same as Matt Gaetz. He just has a fake lying facade of stucco covering him up to pretend like he's this impartial, neutral person. He's not. He's worse, right? That's even more devious. The attorney general should not be a provocateur. Well, we have that. What do you think Lisa Monaco is doing? Do you think it's cool that they're raiding people's houses who should not be raided? No. Meanwhile, we've got wide open borders and people dropping dead from fentanyl. They want to prosecute marijuana offenses or people who are protesting at abortion clinics. Okay. So freaked out. You can see, I'm sure it's a 5-alarm fire. Someone needs to go collect the shredders from the DOJ's office right now. and check the recycle bins. Go into the settings, IT people, and they need to turn off the empty recycle bin functionality, because there must be shredding documents there hand over fist. And Bolton is freaked about it. Now, Gaetz did resign from Congress very quickly. Trump announced his choice the same day that he resigned. House Speaker Mike Johnson confirmed the resignation has already taken effect, so Gaetz is out of office. Johnson indicated that Gaetz made the decision to expedite his replacement. Says, I think out of deference to us, he issued the resignation letter effective immediately. That caught us by surprise a little bit, but I asked him what the reasoning was, and he said, you can't have too many absences, so under Florida state law, there's about an 8-week period to select and fill a vacant seat. So the idea is, by doing that allows me, he says, Mike Johnson from the House says, I've already called Ron DeSantis in Florida and said, let's start the clock, right? Let's get this seat filled, like now. Gaetz selection surprised lawmakers and pundits, conservative firebrand. Kevin McCarthy's already on a plane to Russia. Though his representation of a solid Republican district makes it unlikely that the resignation will impact the majority, it's still going to cause a little bit of complexity there. So very interesting developments. And this was a great clip that we saw yesterday, but once again, for posterity, this is Thomas Massie, who's saying, suck it up, Buttercup. This has to happen.
Do you think he'll get confirmed by the Senate?
Then he can recess. He's the Attorney General. Suck it up.
No recess was the point of it. Great. All right, so shout out to Thomas Massie. Here's J.D. Vance poking some fun at it. He says, gosh, yeah, there's a lot of trepidation about Matt Gaetz. This is very concerning. He says, J.D. says, the main issue with Matt Gaetz is that he used his office to prosecute his political opponents, and he authorized federal agents to harass parents who were peacefully protesting at school board meetings. Oh, wait, that's actually Merrick Garland, the current attorney general, who did that. And nobody is upset about Merrick Garland, who is raiding Catholics, parents, pro-lifers, J6ers, meanwhile letting the country being ransacked by criminals from foreign countries. Great job at the Department of Justice, prosecuting your political opponents and imprisoning them to boot. So Jack Posobiec was saying, I wonder if people are actually going to vote for Matt Gaetz. Interesting. Because remember, there were a bunch of people who voted for Merrick Garland, including a bunch of Republicans. Remember, there were 70 yays for Merrick Garland, which means there were a bunch of Republicans who voted yes. And so the question is, will they vote yes for Matt Gaetz? We sure hope so. Because if they're voting for Democratic Merrick Garlands, who are responsible for all of this legal bloodshed across America, we hope that their vote will make its way over to Matt Gaetz. Now, one person who's very unhappy about this is Shifty Pencil Neck Schiff. He says, this is ridiculous. He says, first, the Supreme Court granted a president immunity for weaponizing the Justice Department. What? Who prosecuted who, Adam? Trump didn't prosecute Hillary or Joe or Obama. You guys prosecuted him. Now Donald Trump wants to appoint Matt Gaetz as AG. Adam Schiff is one of the biggest liars of all time in American history. And he got censured too. Elon should put a little asterisk right there. Censored, because he's historically bad. Now, he says confirming him would mean affirming the worst potential abuses of the DOJ. He must be rejected by the Senate. And you know who's going to be there? Adam Schiff in the Senate. Gross. All right, so here is what Ken Paxton said, another likely contender for the role. Says, I'm excited to work with my friend Matt Gaetz. There are few people I trust more to take on the deep state and end the weaponization of the DOJ. Matt Gaetz has been a stalwart defender of liberty, and Texas has his back. Congratulations to Matt. Nice endorsement there from Ken. We had some other updates here. Now, this woman is named Melania. She's reporting for Punchbowl and NBC. She says the timing was pretty suspect. Say that Matt Gaetz resigned just 2 days before the House Ethics Committee was set to vote on releasing a highly damaging report that was outlining its investigation into Gaetz, says sources. So the panel no longer has jurisdiction when he leaves, right? So also the timing on that is pretty interesting to see what would be coming out. But the thing about this is it doesn't seem to me like Matt Gaetz would leave to avoid the publication of this report, because my guess is the report is coming out either way, right? Somebody's going to leak something, and him leaving might just be coincidental timing. And I would expect he's anticipating whatever they're going to say is going to be said. So here's what the general vibe is over on the Hill after all these appointments. Look like they're not happy about it.
Julie, let's talk about some of the picks that you just ran through. Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth. Do you think that they are confirmable at this point? What's the buzz on the Hill right now?
I hope you don't forgive me for saying this, Kristen, but the general vibe on the Hill right now is WTF. People are shocked at the news of Gaetz, especially. I feel like I couldn't even get around to getting reaction on Tulsi Gabbard when this pick of Gaetz came down the pike. Senators, Republican lawmakers, even one of them in a closed-door meeting said, oh my God, when they saw the post from Donald Trump. Several senators, I just ran into Lindsey Graham, for example, who brushed me off and said he didn't speak to Trump yet. We'll see, he said, if Gaetz is confirmable. If he's a good pick, Chuck Grassley, who's going to be the top Republican on the Judiciary Committee, working very closely with the next Attorney General, he really didn't have anything to say. He stood there for 30 seconds just completely baffled when reporters told him about this. Others like Collins, Murkowski, those who are seen to deflect from whatever Trump tries to do, their press handlers basically pushing us aside. And it is because look at who Gaetz is. He's currently under investigation by the House Ethics Committee for some of these personal misgivings that he's been a part of, some of the things that the federal government has investigated him on and later dropped charges on. He is still very much being investigated by that House committee. A bipartisan sentiment across the aisle is they really can't believe that Gaetz is the one who ended up with this top job. And the question of if he's confirmable, you talk about all these picks, this really is the biggest test between Senate Republicans and Trump, and a test of their allyship to him too.
Yep, that's exactly right. A lot is going to hinge on this. It is the shiny object in the room. Everybody's going to be paying attention to it. And it suddenly makes all of the other picks a lot more palatable in the menu of items. And that being said, I think that Matt Gaetz should have a hard backing. And senators who are going to hem and haw about it better explain themselves why that is and why they're voting for guys like Merrick Garland and not Matt Gaetz. Do they want a fake DOJ lifer, somebody who has this fake air of impartiality that's not true? No, I'd rather have an authentic person who is committed to the non-weaponization of the DOJ. It shouldn't happen. I don't want the DOJ to be weaponized against the left at all. I want to live in a country where we have an actual justice system. Now, what they're calling retribution is not retribution at all. They're the ones that perverted the justice system. The historical precedent of America supports that. No one did anything like this for 234 years in our great country. They started it. And so now that cabal of folks who have infested the DOJ and our intelligence agencies to pervert the systems, they got to go. They've got to go from the system. The people voted in new power to make that happen. And so if the senators are not on board with that agenda, they better explain themselves. And we'll be looking forward to that explanation. Here are a couple senators. This is Senator Mark Wayne Mullins was asked.
Are you going to vote for Matt Gaetz?
Matt Gaetz and I, there's no question that we've had our differences. They've been very public about it. I completely trust President Trump's decision making on this one, but at the same time, he's got to come to Congress and sell himself. There's a lot of, or to the Senate and sell himself. There's a lot of questions that are going to be out there. He's got to answer those questions, and hopefully he's able to answer the questions right. And if he can, then we'll go through the confirmation process.
Senator Mark Wayne Mullen from the great state of Oklahoma. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Coming up next.
All right, so we'll see some unequivocal some equivocal statements that are out there. Here's Kinzinger. Let's see what he says.
So it just got word. It's Matt Gaetz
You
for
gonna cry?
Attorney General.
You gonna cry?
Tulsi Gabbard for DNI.
Yeah. What's up?
Tulsi loves Russia. She loves Assad. Assad is a butcher.
Oh, gosh.
She was a member of a cult, too, by the way. Somebody else can look that up. Matt Gaetz is truly being suspected of sex with an underage girl.
All right, so these guys are just, man, I hope Matt Gaetz gets in and investigates the criminality that this guy was involved in and the cover-up and the abuse of power that he engaged in when he was rigging and propagandizing their investigation in Congress. There is legislative immunity, congressional immunity, no doubt about that. The question, and I think we should test this, is when do those immune privileges, those immunity privileges, when do those get broken? What's the extent of the power for Congress? We know that the Supreme Court came out and gave us 3 buckets as applied to the president. There's clearly, absolutely immune conduct. There is a middle bucket of presumptively immune conduct, and then there's not immune conduct. Maybe it's time to revisit the legislative immunity to see if there's a non-immune bucket in there that their conduct on the January 6th committee might fall into. For example, when Liz Cheney was illegally unethically contacting Cassidy Hutchinson, even though she was represented by an attorney, and she was speaking to her knowing she was represented by an attorney, and Liz Cheney is an attorney, so she knows better. Maybe all of that, maybe there's some other criminality there, like destruction of evidence and a cover-up and RICO conspiracies. Maybe they should all be investigated. And maybe Matt Gaetz will look into it. Hey, here's Senator Graham. He says elections have consequences. And we've been saying this a lot, too, because that was Obama's phrase. Remember, he won. We're changing everything. And the Republicans, I thought also were ridiculous back then, to be quite clear about this. The Republicans were like, I can't believe he's like liberal. What? He's doing everything he said he was going to do. And they were all hemming and he was going to be like a centrist. And we thought that Obama. No, were you listening at all? He said all of these things like clearly on the campaign trail. Republicans were like dumbfounded that this happened. Same thing's happening here. And Republicans are also dumbfounded too. I can't believe he's appointing people that are loyal to him and aren't going to stab him in the back. All you guys did last time. You're shocked about that, really? All right. Here's Gaetz being discussed by Graham.
I say elections have consequences when Republicans don't like it. And I'm telling my Democratic friends, elections have consequences whether you like it or not. You're accusing Matt of doing the very thing that you did. Matt Gaetz didn't lie under oath. Matt Gaetz did not sign FISA warrants that were based on Russian disinformation. So we're going to give the president a chance to put his people forward. To every Republican, give Matt a chance.
Give Matt a chance to the Senate and the senators. Confirm him, get him in, or else. And Elon has said that there will be repercussions coming in the future if they do not support the president and his agenda. Maybe they'll primary them and take their seats away from them. But here is what Sean Davis shared, because Murkowski is a senator from Alaska. She's along with Susan Collins from Maine, one of these squishy Republicans who's going to be difficult. So she came out and said that she's souring big time on Gaetz, calling him not a serious pick. So here's what one Republican senator says, we need a serious attorney general. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to consider somebody that is serious. This one was not on my bingo card. Lisa, he is now. So get on board and get ready to vote for Matt Gaetz. And here is what Sean Davis said. He says she failed her bar exam 4 times, which is a bummer because taking a bar exam is a lot of work. 5 times to pass her bar. Oh, man. Isn't that like, didn't Hillary have a problem too? Did Hillary get it in her first? Did Kamala get it in her first? Where'd she take it? Oh, the Alaska one too. Okay. It was just like a regular state one. It wasn't like a California 3-day. Wow. All right. Lisa Murkowski. Apparently she's a better attorney than Matt Gaetz. I wonder if Matt Gaetz took 4 times to pass his bar exam. Probably not. All right. We'll keep our eye on that. We'll see what is happening. But the DOJ currently in meltdown mode, and we're here for it. All right.